Section 1. The hidden tax and the wealth gap. Here is a number to start. The richest one out of 100 people own about 1/3 of all wealth in the United States. That is a staggering slice of the economic pie, leaving the other 99 of us to squabble over the remaining crumbs. Now here is another number. In some recent years, the money collected from U.S. tariffs has doubled in a very short time. A sudden surge that sent ripples through the economy. Prices for everyday goods went up, and millions of families felt that pinch in their monthly budgets. Yet during that same period, the wealthiest individuals often saw their fortunes continue to grow, seemingly untouched by the very policies that made life more expensive for everyone else. This brings us to a simple question with a surprisingly complex answer. Why? How can a government policy designed to protect domestic industries end up squeezing the average person while the rich seem to float above it all? It seems counterintuitive, like a rainstorm that only soaks people on the ground floor while leaving the penthouse perfectly dry. The connection between these two facts, the rise in tariffs and the persistent growth of wealth at the top, is not a coincidence. It is a story about how our economic systems are structured, who has the power to navigate the rules, and who ultimately bears the cost when prices rise. To understand this, we first need to define our terms. What is a tariff? A tariff is a tax on goods from other countries. It is just a fee, collected at the border when a product arrives from overseas, making that imported item more expensive to bring into the country. Shipping container with $sign to shopping cart with higher price. The stated goal is often to make locally produced goods more competitive by raising the price of foreign alternatives. Think of it as a bouncer at the door of the national economy, charging foreign products a cover fee before they can enter the party. The idea is to encourage everyone inside to buy the locally made, tariff-free drinks instead. But like any cover charge, someone has to pay it. The story of a tariff does not end at the port where the tax is collected. That is just the beginning of a long journey that typically ends at a cash register right in front of you. The cost of that tariff gets passed along step by step, from the importer to the wholesaler to the retailer, and finally to the consumer. This hidden cost gets baked into the final price of everything from your groceries to your new washing machine, acting like a silent, regressive tax that many people do not even realize they are paying. And as we will see, not everyone pays it equally. Imagine a game of hot potato with a tax bill. Importer gets it first, wholesaler, retailer, then you, toss down the line. The final person holding the potato gets burned. In tariffs, the consumer is almost always left holding the hot potato, feeling the burn as higher prices. Why do prices rise? Simple business logic. The big firm advantage. Loopholes and lobbyists. While everyone faces higher prices at the store, not everyone feels the pain of tariffs equally. Large multinational corporations have a whole toolkit of strategies to sidestep the worst effects, a luxury that small businesses simply do not possess. Think of it like an obstacle course. A big firm is like a professional athlete with top-of-the-line gear, a team of coaches, and a detailed map of the course. A small firm is like an amateur running in their street shoes, trying to figure it out as they go. One of the biggest advantages for a large corporation is its ability to switch suppliers. If a tariff makes steel from country A too expensive, a global manufacturing giant can quickly pivot and start sourcing its steel from country B, which is not subject to the tariff. A small local workshop that has been buying specialized parts from the same supplier in country A for decades does not have that flexibility. Furthermore, big firms have the resources to exploit legal loopholes and secure special exemptions. The tariff system is often a labyrinth of complex rules, product codes, and exclusion processes. A large company can hire an army of high-priced lawyers and consultants to navigate this maze. They can lobby lawmakers directly, making a case for a carve-out that benefits their industry. A small business owner, meanwhile, is too busy running their shop to fly to the Capitol and bend a senator's ear. They are left to deal with the consequences of rules they had no say in creating, giving the big firms yet another competitive edge in a market already tilted in their favor. Section 4. The investor's gain. How tariffs can fatten portfolios. While tariffs can mean higher costs for consumers and headaches for small businesses, they can paradoxically lead to financial gains for the wealthy. This happens primarily through the ownership of stocks and other financial assets. The richest households in the country own the vast majority of stocks. So when policies are enacted that boost the profits of certain companies, It is these wealthy individuals who reap the rewards. When a tariff is placed on a foreign product, its price goes up. This gives domestic companies that produce a similar product a massive advantage. Suddenly, they are no longer competing with a cheaper foreign alternative. With their main competitor kneecapped, they can sell more of their product, and they can raise their own prices to increase profit margins. This increased profitability makes the company look very attractive to investors. As a result, its stock price can rise, and the shareholders, who are disproportionately wealthy, see their net worth increase without lifting a finger. Moreover, many wealthy individuals have highly diversified investment portfolios. They do not just own stock in one company or one industry. They own a slice of everything: manufacturing, logistics, retail, technology. This means that even if a tariff hurts one part of their portfolio, like retail facing higher import costs, it might boost another part, like a domestic steel producer. This ability to hedge their bets allows them to weather economic shocks far more effectively than an average person whose entire financial well-being is tied to their paycheck or the price of gas and groceries. Section 5. The real-world squeeze. Steel, washing machines, and your wallet. Let's move away from theory and look at some concrete examples. Take steel, for instance. When the government imposes a tariff on imported steel, the immediate goal is to help domestic steel mills, and for them it can work. With foreign competition suddenly more expensive, American steel producers can raise their prices and increase their output. Their profits go up. But that is only the first chapter of the story. Steel is a fundamental building block for countless other industries. Automakers need steel to build cars. Appliance manufacturers need it to make refrigerators and washing machines. Construction companies need it for buildings and bridges. When the price of steel goes up, the cost of making all of these other things goes up too. Another classic case is washing machines. A few years ago, a tariff was placed on imported washing machines to protect domestic manufacturers. And what happened? The price of washing machines shot up. But here's the interesting part. A University of Chicago study found prices rose about 12%, almost double the initial tariff. Not only that, clothes dryers, not subject to the tariff, also increased. Why? Because stores often sell washers and dryers as a pair, they saw an opportunity to raise prices on both, knowing consumers would pay. The tariff gave them cover to pad their profits. Then there is retaliation, which often hits the agricultural sector hard. When the US imposes tariffs, other countries often hit back. They target signature American exports like soybeans, pork, whiskey. This can be devastating for farmers who rely on global markets. Suddenly, their biggest customers are gone, and they are left with a surplus they cannot sell. Section 6. The ripple effect. Small businesses and working families. The economic shockwaves from tariffs do not stop at the checkout counter. They ripple outwards, hitting small businesses and working families with particular force. A small machine shop in the Midwest that relies on specialty imported blades for its tools is a perfect example. When a tariff suddenly increases the cost of those blades, the shop owner is caught in a bind. They likely do not have the clout or the volume to negotiate a better price or find an alternative domestic supplier overnight. The owner now faces a series of painful choices. They can absorb the higher cost, which shrinks their profit margin, leaving less money to reinvest in the business or pay their employees. They can try to pass the cost on to customers by raising prices, but risk losing business to a larger competitor with an exemption. Often, the result is a combination of both. They raise prices slightly, lose customers, and see profits dwindle. For low-income families, the impact is even more direct and unforgiving. A tariff is essentially a consumption tax, and it is a regressive one at that. This takes a much larger bite out of a low-income household's budget than a wealthy one. A family struggling to make ends meet spends a much higher proportion of their income on essentials: food, clothing, household supplies. When the prices of these items go up by even a few percentage points, it can mean the difference between paying the electricity bill on time or falling behind. Think of it this way. An extra $100 a month in costs for a family earning $30,000 a year is a crisis. It could mean skipping meals, foregoing a doctor's visit, or cutting back on school supplies for their kids. For a family earning $300,000 a year, an extra $100 is an annoyance. They can easily absorb the cost without changing their lifestyle. Section 7. A fairer path forward. Transparency, targeting, and hope. So are tariffs always and forever a bad idea? Not necessarily. They are a tool, and like any tool, their usefulness depends on how they are wielded. A country might have valid reasons to use them, protecting a nascent infant industry from being crushed by foreign competition, gaining leverage in trade negotiations, pushing back against unfair practices like product dumping. The goals can be legitimate, but if the tool is blunt, heavy, and swung indiscriminately, it is likely to cause a lot of collateral damage. The key is to use it with precision, care, and a clear-eyed view of who will bear the costs. To make trade policy fairer, the first step is radical transparency. The process for granting tariff exemptions and carve-outs is often murky, happening behind closed doors where lobbyists have the most influence. We need to shine a bright light on this process. Every request for an exclusion should be public. The reasons for granting or denying it should be clearly explained, and the data on who benefits should be easily accessible. Making the rules simple, clear, and fair for everyone, not just those who can afford a lawyer, would help level the playing field between big and small businesses. Next, policies should be targeted and temporary. Instead of broad, sweeping tariffs that affect entire sectors of the economy, a more surgical approach is needed. If the goal is to protect a specific industry, the measures should be narrowly tailored and come with a clear expiration date. This sunset clause forces a regular review to see if the policy is actually working, or if it is just creating higher prices and corporate windfalls.